Well, my name is Andy Nulman, and frankly, I've been working right now for 44 years. And I really haven't done all that much, but what I've done real well and real big. I started off as a journalist. I wanted to be a journalist my whole life. I started out at the age of 16, and I was the entertainment editor of a newspaper at 17. I got fired at the age of 23, and I thought my life was over at that point in time. But lo and behold, a couple of years later, I got to really be on the ground floor and co-found the Just for Laughs festival, where I was for a whole bunch of years, and rode that out and made that big, and became a huge event all around the world. Left that at its peak to start something really crazy with my friend Garner Bornstein. We started a company called Airborne Mobile. We were pioneers in the world of mobile content when these phone screens were this big and they were green with little black dots, and we told people one day you're going to watch television on these things. They thought we were nuts. And we sold the company 6 years later after some very tough times. We sold for big amount of money, if I must say so myself. Went back to Just for Laughs to digitize that company, which I thought was quite analog at the time, and left and started a few other things. And right now I'm working on a Broadway musical. So that's it. That's what I said. It's not much, but those 3 lines, but big. It's like 3 lines written this big.
That's amazing.
What's kept me in Montreal, I think it's a factor of a number of things. One of the things is I always hated to be part of a majority. I always thought you worked harder and you had more to prove, and you did better if you were a minority. If you weren't part of that bigness and you had to fight, if you were the little fish in a small pond, you swam harder. Every job I had to understand, not just understand, but be not even just fluent, but be operational in French. And that was really important. So it didn't necessarily have to speak it that well, but I had to speak it well enough to be operational in it. And that really forced me to not just learn the language, but integrate into the Quebec society. So I never saw myself as an anglophone. I never really saw myself as a francophone. I always saw myself as a Quebecer, and this is what we do. And this is, the language is part of what we do. It's the same way when in the winter, you put on boots. There's snow. It's in Quebec. It's French. You speak it. I mean, it's just, I don't want to sound sucky, but it's just natural. If it's raining, you take an umbrella. If it's Quebec, you speak French. Bing. So people ask all the time, why stay here? There's language hassles, and there's laws, and there's this. No place is perfect. There's no place that's perfect. I think this is pretty close, but no place is perfect. But one thing to remember, and I think this is really important, being able to integrate does not mean to acquiesce. Does not mean to roll over and play dead and say, hey, you know what? My mother tongue doesn't mean anything. But it's also important to know where you're at. Because if you go ahead and you disrespect or disregard where you're at, it's going, no matter where it is, you're going to have trouble. Right. What I'm trying to do is do things that make good use of time versus wasting time. There's an expression I have, which is not really the nicest expression, but it's get paid or get laid. Meaning, is there money in it? No. Is it going to make me feel really good? No. So why am I doing this? I have to do one of the two.
Good.
But when I say get laid, it's also I do a lot of charity work for Maimonides, and I'm doing for Youth Employment Services. I'm doing for Ami Quebec.
Yeah.
That feels real good.
Yeah.
It doesn't pay.
Right.
It feels real good.
Yeah.
You're doing something. So that's what it means. I had my dream. I had my dream as a kid. I wanted to be a journalist. I wanted to work for a newspaper. That's all I wanted.
Okay.
So you got to understand, when I was fired, how devastating it was because of the fact that's all I wanted. But it was the best thing that ever happened to me. And that's perhaps a great lesson, because what you think is horrific today, when you look back and say, oh, Lordy, thank God for that, because it set me off on a path I would have never gone. So the advice is just roll with it. Roll with what happens, because there's good stuff that's going to happen and there's bad stuff that's going to happen. And you just go with it. And sometimes dreams change, and sometimes getting to your dream becomes a nightmare. So just don't worry about things. Roll with it, roll with the punches, and enjoy the ride.